Hi, I'm Nancy from Exceptional Travel in Georgetown, Kentucky. I am here today to talk to you about Alaska, specifically to welcome you to our second part of our series of three. I am an Alaska expert. I am certified by the state of Alaska. I've been there on several trips and done extensive land travel. I am also certified by as an adventurist for those off the beaten path places and with uncruise, which is more of like an expedition type cruises. But first, before we get started, I would like to tell you a little bit. This here is a free magazine. It is your go-to guide from Alaska. They put it together every year, and all you have to do is go to travelalaska.com and sign up, and they will send you a free one. There's a lot of good information in here. People get some ideas of what they would like to do and maybe not what they don't want to do. So it's very helpful. And then you come with me and then we go further and get your planning done. But today I would like to talk about the Inside Passage. This here is a pretty large area. I know we talked about these maps earlier, but there is just this one road from Anchorage all the way up to Fairbanks, and it is accessible by train and motor coach. Some beautiful stops along the way. Um, you can stop in Talkeetna. You can stop at Mount McKinley Lodge. That one here is very lovely. Lots to do there. Um, just a great stop. One of the other places that is very popular is to go to Denali National Park. And they also have lodges there as well. And some are right on the river, some are more close into town. So again, that's where I would come into play, but loved staying right on the river. Matter of fact, I've really never videotaped anything on my phone until my last trip there, and I wanted to remember that sound of that babbling river behind us. It was just lovely. In Denali, you really need to stay 2 nights. Um, if not, you're there because of the train schedule. You get there late and have to leave early. The train only goes one direction, 8 to 5. So the stops are already laid out. There's nothing you can do about it. So if you stay at least 2 or 3 nights, you're going to get to enjoy it much better instead of being rushed. One of the trips that you can do is to go into the Tundra Wilderness Tour, and that brings you up to Polychrome Highway with an elevation of like maybe 34,000 feet. You'll see the different animals in the park. We were very fortunate enough to see a grizzly bear here. He was laying on his back and sunning himself, and it was really spectacular to see. The Denali sheep are easy to spot, in my opinion, because they're white, but unfortunately, they're up so high, you still have a hard time seeing them. The moose, they're everywhere. You can see one walking down the street. In Anchorage, they have a lot of that. Even in the spring in Anchorage, they might have their babies in somebody's backyard. Um, the Arctic fox, or I'm sorry, the gray wolf, is very popular there. And I have a local artist who I really love her work, and she's done some beautiful things with the wolves. And then lastly is your caribou, and they travel all year long. So you follow them at different times of the year. Um, Also, while you're there, you can go whitewater rafting, um, taking a flight helicopter up to see Mount Denali. It used to be called Mount McKinley, and it was named after our president who started that national park there. Well, the true Alaskans always call it the Great One or Denali. And so back when our last president was here, he said, well, let's just change it back to what the natives call it. So he removed Mount McKinley, and it now is just called Denali. It has its own weather system, and 1,300 hikers a year try to get up there, but it's very unpredictable. So whether you make it or not just depends on the weather. So it could be cloudy where we are, but the sun's shining there, or it could be snowing on top of Denali and be, 70 degrees down in the lower area. So it's quite different to see. Did want to mention, let's see. Oh, I know. Up to Fairbanks, we really like to have Chena Hot Springs, which is right outside of that area. And we have talked about that before a little bit. They have the hot springs that you can get in and refresh your body. Some people like to go in the winter time. That would be my choice. They have dog sledding. They have an ice bar. Of course, they have the hot springs. And they will even watch for the northern lights for you and call and wake you up if you'd like to do that. Let's see. So we talked about Denali. Oh, wanted to mention the Yukon River. I did get to stay on the Yukon River and got to see float down it in the Yukon. It is the third largest river that we have in North America, and it used to freeze over, and it still does in many places. And they used to use it as a form of road in the wintertime, so they could get to some places that weren't accessible before, all because of a frozen river. It's pretty cool, and I do advise it. Um, the, the the gentleman that wrote Call of the Wild, Jack London, he actually stayed in Dawson City in the Yukon, right on that river, and wrote his book and had his cabin. And you can see why he had that. It was just a great spot. You can also, when you're on the interior, you can go up to the place called the North Pole. And there is Christmas there 24/7, 365 days a year. It's a cute place. They have great shopping, of course. It's out of the way somewhat, and it's not really on one of the tours. So if you wanted something like this, you'd have to ask me, to get you there, which wouldn't be a problem. Excuse me. Again, wanted to mention that this is your Bible here. Again, travel. Sorry, Alaska travelalaska.com. I'm getting mixed up here a little bit. Sorry about that. But we will wrap up today on the interior. And as you can see, it is an all-day trip. You leave Anchorage like at 8 a.m. and by the time you arrive to Fairbanks, it is 5 p.m. And then the train switches and comes back the opposite direction. So it is the place to see in Alaska if you don't get anywhere else. On the land portion, I highly recommend that you at least go up to Denali National Park and spend a couple days there and see the tundra and see Denali, the Great One, the Great Mountain. and do some things and maybe save Fairbanks for some winter activities. Um, when the snow is in, you can go skiing and dog sledding and that type of information. So I'm going to wrap up today with part 2, and hope to see you again soon when you join me on the third part and the last of our series of Travel Alaska. Thank you again, Nancy from Exceptional Travel in Georgetown, Kentucky.